The amount of people that actually said to me, how can I get my kids to eat vegetables? So I was like, okay, I'm going to show you another trick today.
Perfect.
And everything that you see here has been tried and tested on my kids and all their friends. So flatbreads, they're fast to make. When you're trying to get kids to cook, you want something sometimes fast and something that's textured. So this is easy. This is literally just some flour. Would you sit that in for us there, Kat?
Yes,
please? Thanks.
I will.
So it's just self-raising flour. And then some baking powder goes into it and a little bit of salt. And this is like the core part of the flatbread. Like everyone has these basic ingredients at home, and if you don't, they're easy to come by. You do need a little bit of salt in, because salt adds that little bit of flavour. Anything to do with breads, if you don't have it in, you will taste that it's missing. Just a small amount.
From the last time you were here, I was so surprised how deep and how serious this issue actually is.
It's
and also until we
huge.
had the conversation, I went, wow, this is really tricky and difficult for families.
It is a global, worldwide thing.
Really
People
is.
think that it's just Western. I did all of the training. 1 in 3 children are fussy eaters. They micro out of it, or they might eat everything like my son and then just stop. And kids can either learn how to eat, they can learn sort of kind of how to eat, or they can learn how not to eat, because eating is a voluntary motor movement. When I learned that, I was like, oh my goodness, because we learn how to walk, we learn to talk, and people don't realise, because we don't remember, that we actually learn how to eat. And that's why it's a big problem. And that's why with something like this is, so a lot of kids eat flatbreads, they might eat wraps at home, and we're always thinking, how can we make this a little bit different? So for example, the next part of this is I just got water here, so it's just hot water in some butter. You let that melt. I let that melt on the heat of the hob here after I was cooking all the flatbreads. That goes in. So you could leave that. So if you have a child at home that won't eat anything but the shop-bought stuff, try making it homemade. Don't colour it. If it's going to put them over and derail them, you want to win friends with this.
Okay.
If putting in 1 spinach leaf, they'll allow that. That's all you put in for this, and then build it up. I say this is a handful. I measured my handful today. It's 28 grams. And you just put that in. And I'm just going to give a chef tip here. Never put anything really hot in here, because it will explode. I still have a crack on my kitchen ceiling. And I knew better. And even though I knew better, I was like, I'm still going to do it. Now, that's very noisy. Not going to inflict that on you. So I did this during the break. So this is just what it's blended up like. And it goes this gorgeous green colour. Now, if you're thinking, my kids will not go near this, whose kids don't love slime? Most kids love slime. So it's the texture, it's the colour. So this essentially is like edible slime. That's what I tell loads of kids, and I work with them.
Your child perhaps didn't like the colour green. Could you add a bit of colouring and change it to their favourite colour?
You
or
could,
do something?
yeah. And even if they were really opposed, what you could do, and this is what I did with my son at the very first step, is I added in green food colouring, like to porridges and all different things, to teach him that just because it was green, it's not going to poison him. And what happens is kids are very clever. They learn at a young age. They'll taste something green and bitter, and they'll go, that's awful. A lot of green foods that are fruit and veg, they're harder to eat. They're more fibrous. They're harder to do rotary chew, which is really challenging for kids. So they'll go, that's hard to eat. It's not pleasurable, because we eat for pleasure a lot of the time. And all green foods are probably going to be bitter. I am not eating green food, and I'll cut that out of my diet, and that's what happens.
Do you think also maybe kids pick up their parents' dislikes with food?
Huge.
I had a radish on my plate today. Blake picked it up, and I went, oh no, that's horrible. And she went, duh. Arthur went wild, because she'd never tasted a radish, but I went, no, because I didn't like it.
Her
And then
mind's already
she
made
went,
up.
no, I'm not having it.
We have our life-limiting beliefs. I thought, before I went over this whole world with my son's eating, that women did not eat brown sauce. In my house, my brothers ate it. My mum didn't eat it. She'd make this face when they'd eat it. And I went, oh, and I never tried it until when I was getting my son to eat, learning about new foods. I used to say to him, okay, give me a food and I'll learn how to eat this one. And he was like, brown sauce. And I was like, oh my God. But I don't eat brown sauce. And I went, oh, actually, that was something I learned from my mom. Totally, Brian, because we are social role models. When you think about it.
And did you love it? Did you eat it?
No, I can tolerate it now, but I was initially tasting going, oh my God, it's awful, because I had these preconceptions that brown sauce
You had to do a
is
lot of
disgusting.
unlearning.
But I was going through what my son went through, and I never thought about it before. Now, I'm just going to, that gets kneaded. Kids love doing this.
Looks like guacamole.
It does look
Is
very
this the
ripe.
part where they can join in?
That's when they get their hands in and dirty,
Squidgy.
and then you roll it till it's nice and soft. Now, that takes around 5 minutes if you want to entertain your kids for the summer. 'Cause a lot of parents get nervous already. half an hour if you want them to roll it for that long. And then it's so simple. Katie, could you roll that out?
I will indeed.
Me and this Hobbs, so I had words with the Hobbs. I'm not going to, Brian. I'm just saying it worked all during rehearsals. All during rehearsals.
The smell was amazing.
The smell. Have you noticed, Claire, that I've one's already cooked off?
Some you cooked earlier.
Of course, because that's my insurance policy.
She
I need that. So anyway, these get cooked in a hot pan. I heard a noise. That's a good sign.
Yeah,
Look
we
at
heard
this.
it beep. Well done.
This pan is not moving. So you roll this out. Now, the trick is to actually roll it like super thin, because these are really, really thin breads, and they cook in like 30 seconds to like a minute and a half, depending on your...
Wow.
It is so quick.
So the thinner the better.
The thinner the better. And the one thing about kids is they like instant gratification. You'll get that with Blake. You know, it's like, show me now. I don't have the patience to wait half an hour to cook. So they're really, really fast to make. And these are brilliant because you can have them as a snack, you can freeze them, or you can actually make them in the little bowls in the morning and then cook them later on. I'm going to put this on to cook. Now, that should be a little bit hotter.
4 minutes here, Louise.
But what I have here is I had some beetroot. So last week I was in my son's school, 4th class, Greystones Community National School. Their teacher, Miss Power, allowed me to come in for the day. I was like, you're very brave. And
thank you, Miss Power.
Thank you, Miss Power. So I had 26 of kids. So my son's in the class. I go in every year, and they're amazing. I teach them food and science, and we were learning about beetroot and spinach. And every single child in the class, ate all of what you can see in front of you. So it's been passed by so many kids.
Are some of them fussy eaters as well, perhaps?
Yeah, well, a lot of, I think we all are when we think about it. But when you go food shopping...
Do you liquidise the beetroot, or how do you...
So this is liquidised, but when I was getting the kids to learn about it, I had it chopped up and grated, so they're getting all different textures, and I got them to smell it and to look at it.
But I never hid it from them. Cooked?
This is pre-cooked, yeah. I think it might take your tooth out if it was completely raw.
Well, if you liquidise it,
but then what I do here is, so the kids were looking at this. I love kids' brains work. They go, could you make that striped? And I went, oh my God, what a great idea. So I cut these out. Now I'm not going to, you'd need to roll this out, but I did little striped ones along here.
Creative.
And it's just a little fun way. You could even play noughts and crosses if you wanted. So that flatbread smells like it's about to burn. So I'm going to flip it over. And I do have ones in the oven. So these are cooked and good to go. There we go.
Cook so quick.
So quick. And here's the ones I already made. Now I'm turning them into quesadillas. So here's a great tip for parents. It's called slight noticeable difference. So if you're going, my child eats cheese. This is regular grated cheese, cheddar cheese. Then what I would say is, OK, if they eat cheese, could you try them with the white cheese? If they eat the white cheese, could you try them with a smoked cheese? And if they have smoked cheese, could you try them with a Gouda cheese? But don't hide it from them. Let them know what they're eating.
All right. So we've got some texts here. You did say 1 in 3 kids are fussy eaters. So this comes from Joan in Offaly. She says, all my child wants to eat are foods that would be considered in the junk food variety. We keep trying to offer home cooking options, but dinner time proves really problematic. Also, my mother-in-law doesn't help by always giving them highly processed foods. What can she do?
There's a lot to unpack there.
Just under 2 minutes.
What I would say is, if you can start off with one of their preferred food and pick one meal time. So what I would always say is pick a meal time when you're there with them, and you're going to have a chat with your mother-in-law, because if they're not going out with your rules, and if you're trying to do a certain established, say, if you're doing, I'm going to have these spinach today, and then if your mother-in-law comes in going, oh, here, have the sweets in my pocket, that's not okay.
No, I agree.
So you need to have a little chat. It is uncomfortable, but also, so what you can do is you pick one of their foods, and if it's a food like, for instance, these quesadillas, the white ones, like I showed you earlier on, you get a little piece of spinach and you put it in and you blend it up, but you let them do it. Now, you have to remember, they mightn't eat this the first time, and that's okay. Take the pressure away, because if they know they're in a pressure-free zone, they're more likely to try it.
Just under a minute left. Hope we get a taste test in. I've got one more here. My daughter refused to eat any breakfast. She's only 4 years old. I don't know what to do as she's going to Montessori with nothing in her stomach. I feel like such a failure of a mom at times. That's from Karen in Wexford.
That's heartbreaking. That's how I felt. So, Karen, I totally empathise with you. If she's going to nursery, if you can find one little thing that she might eat, if it's just one thing, if it's a breakfast, if you can even just sit down at breakfast, and if she's not eating, if you can role model the eating, because children will try and copy what we do. But it sounds to me like you might need to deep dive a little bit more, because there are over 75 reasons why children won't eat.